couple weeks after Brandywine, we have Germantown. Since Cornwallis pantsed Washington in New York and at Brandywine by marching around him and attacking him in the flank while occupying him to the front, Washington decides he's going to try that. So militia are going to come down and demonstrate in front, causing a big commotion. Then the rest of the Continental Army is going to be coming down Mandalay Road. Now Howe sent a couple detachments just to keep an eye on things on this side. Now, the Wissahickon here is only crossable at these 3 points, these 3 roads. Let's see how this goes. First, Armstrong appears. There's heavy fog everywhere.
Howe begins cautiously advancing northward.
The Continental Army comes down Raven Hill Road, making its way to Mandalay Road. When the lead HQ comes within
1/3 move
of the British forces, its troops are placed on the map, and the rest of the militia make it on board, and they come on a road march
and prepare to open fire
on Cliveden. It's mid-morning. Still, the fog clings heavily. Howe hears the musket fire around Chew House and advances. Sullivan was not anticipating running into any British forces, but now he deploys to attack. The militia, following orders, simply fire into the fog. It's late morning, and Nipphausen arrives. Combat along the Schuylkill. The British let loose a devastating volley and fall back. Washington's command enters. Howe still isn't sure what he's running into. He's pretty sure the attack is coming right down on Cliveden. He advances forward and has the Queen's Rangers prepared to cross over the Wissahickon. Armstrong's Pennsylvania militia holds at Mount Airy, and Nipphausen arrives. Nipphausen orders his troops to advance cautiously. No telling where those damnable rebels are in this fog. And now it's midday. This fog will be here all day. General Greene's troops are seen appearing on the map. Howe advances forward to send the Queen's Rangers across the Wissahickon and see what's going on. And the Queen's Rangers contact the Colonial Army.
George Washington does not intend to have his surprise ruined.
He sends Pulaski's cavalry to trap the Rangers, while the rest of his troops continue down the road. And Sullivan forces fan out to attack all along the front and clear the way. Sullivan's men sweep away the British attachments, but the Queen's Rangers escape. Now, Howe will be warned. The Colonials must rush to get across the Wissahickon. Washington has sent several detachments of Continentals to fortify the militia. Sullivan calls his troops to follow the cavalry across the Wissahickon.
Washington moves south to cross the Wissahickon.
And Nipphausen continues to creep cautiously forward. Now, it would be sweet if the militia knew to prevent the Rangers from crossing here, but they have no idea. They're sitting here in the fog, keeping up the noise like they're told to do, firing into the fog, ineffectively other than to keep the British focused on what's going on here. Meanwhile, the Queen's Rangers come spilling across and warn Howe. Howe sends a rider down to warn Cornwallis. Tell him to get over to the Schuylkill River as quickly as possible. In the meantime, he sends Matthew to do what he can. The rider catches Cornwallis at the crossroads and sends him west. It's late afternoon. Washington finally gets across the Wissahickon and deploys. Greene follows closely behind. And Sullivan crosses the Wissahickon himself, but farther north, and joins with the militia forces.
He calls for the militia leaders to form up and be ready to advance.
Cornwallis races up to command Matthews. His grenadiers continue forward, come out of line, as the grenadiers charge the American. The colonial militia form into line, stiffened by the Continental Regular, and the cream of the colonial and British forces go head to head. And in the confusion and the fog, the intense elite unit fighting, they fight until nothing is left on either side. Neither formation is able to participate any longer today in combat. And now in early evening, what is left? What does this mean? Washington places infantry and knocks his artillery on a defensible position. With the waning sunlight, Sullivan orders the militia to charge. Cornwallis races up the road to warn Howe of the disaster. His rear threatened, Howe calls for a general retreat, sending the Queen's Rangers ahead to stabilize the situation. Nipphausen falls back. Sullivan charges forward, but contacts nothing. Greene races along the Wissahickon On the eastern side, American baggage races up towards Sullivan. No decisive combat in the early evening, but what will one last effort gain the Colonials? Cornwallis and Howe seek to escape the Colonial trap. Nipphausen falls back. Pulaski's dragoons fall back to join Washington. Sullivan advances his line and brings up his bags. Just north of Germantown, he deploys his bags. The day's battle has been indecisive, but neither side can leave this unresolved. In the evening, the elite troops are recovered and reorganized and brought back up to strength. The lines are straightened, dressed, and Von Donop's Hessian grenadiers arrive. The stakes are high. The British must protect Philadelphia. Washington's colonial army must recapture it. Now, this morning of day 2, there is no fog. The colonial assault opens up. Greene screens Washington assault. Nipphausen responds to the American assault, and Howe reacts. His cannons fire in the colonial line, driving back the troops. Knox's artillery fires on the British left, seemingly without effect, and Washington's troops leap forward, and Sullivan launches his assault, and combat erupts all along the line. Flanked, the Continentals go down, and the militia escape. Sullivan's attack on the artillery. The artillery destroys the skirmishers and falls back. Washington's attack is flanked on the left. Maxwell's troops fall back. The colonial skirmishers in the center. The Queen's Rangers fall back. And on the far British left. The battle is inconclusive. Who will decide? Depends on who can get their act together and come back in full strength. It's mid-morning. The lines are in shambles. The colonial attack did not accomplish what Washington had hoped. But Sullivan and Greene do not relent. On the British right, the British household guards fall to the American assault. Sullivan's assault on the British artillery. The artillery is overrun. The British drive off the Americans, but with heavy losses. The colonial elite flank the British elite. It was too much for the British. It's late morning, and Howe has suffered ruinous losses. Comparing casualties, it may not seem so bad, but at this point the British are conceding the ground today. Howe cannot risk a costly stalemate. Good game.